a bread box without air conditioning. We were talking about triple-digit temperatures inside, and one man had gone without AC.
First at noon, authorities seized thousands of pills laced with a deadly substance at a major drug bust in Rochester. And workers are striking at the Kaler Hotel after staff there says their contracted PTO was wiped without their knowledge. And then a West Concord family is shining a bright light on their community after unexpectedly losing their 15-month-old daughter. Your news at noon starts now.
Live from your local news leader, this is KTTC News.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Darian Letty. Jess is off. Well, a Rochester man was arrested after thousands of M30 pills containing fentanyl were seized from his home. M30 pills are counterfeit oxycodone pills laced with unexpected fentanyl. According to RPD, information was collected regarding transportation of a large quantity of these M30 pills to Rochester from Phoenix, Arizona. On July 15th, RPD Criminal Interdiction Unit and other assisting agencies conducting a traffic stop as part of a search warrant on Interstate 35 north of Interstate 90. And they found a fake ID card, a loaded firearm, 80 rounds of ammunition, cocaine, marijuana, and counterfeit oxycodone pills testing positive for fentanyl. And on Tuesday, additional search warrants were served on vehicles and residents in northwest and southeast Rochester, where additional narcotics were discovered. One of the residents was located on Riverwood Lane Northwest, where 7.18 pounds of counterfeit M30 oxycodone pills tested positive for fentanyl were seized. This weight amounts to approximately 36,000 pills, and each pill has the potential to cause a deadly overdose. Around 4 p.m. on that same day, John Ask, a 46-year-old from Rochester, was arrested and now waits arraignment for first-degree possession and first-degree sale of narcotics-related charges. The investigation is ongoing. And a man overdosed last night. It happened around 2 a.m. A 54-year-old man was overdosing. According to Rochester police, his girlfriend called 911, saying her boyfriend was unresponsive in the bathroom. The police and paramedics responded, and he was given Narcan and regained consciousness. He denied taking any drugs to the police. An Austin mother is pleading guilty to second-degree manslaughter in the suffocation death of her 2-month-old son in 2021. 26-year-old Jocelyn Pater is charged with several counts, including child endangerment and possession of a controlled substance. The child was found underneath her while she slept on the couch. She admitted to officers she had been using meth. The child was flown to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, where he later died. Prosecutors have agreed to drop the other charges against her and release her from jail while she awaits her sentencing. Now let's get a quick check on the weather. Meteorologist Ted Schmidt joins us from the weather patio. How's it feeling out there, Ted?
Feels great. Darian, is actually fairly comfortable out here. Just a little hint of a breeze. Temperatures, it's definitely feeling maybe a little warmer than yesterday, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of the gustier wind we had yesterday and that very dry air. Things are slightly warmer, maybe slightly more humid today, and that humidity eventually will work to set the stage for maybe some rain chances as we see a storm system, a little disturbance come in for the northwest that may bring just a couple of showers. Big puffy cumulus clouds have developed in the past hour, and some of these may eventually bring us a very brief light amount of rain this afternoon. That's the current scene from our Louis Dodano camera. Here at the studio, it's 77, winds 5 miles per hour, dew point 60, so just a touch of humidity. Nothing really all that bad for July standards, though, just a little more than yesterday. 77 at Rochester at the airport. It's 79 in Winona, and Mesa City now 78 degrees, on our way to about 80 or so. A few fair weather clouds, no rain so far, but we'll track the possibility of a shower or thunderstorm chance, just maybe a brief shower between mid-afternoon and mid-evening later today. The allergy report, trees and grasses, moderate range, everything else still in the low range today. And the ultraviolet index, 7.5 on that scale of 1 to 10 today. So a little bit of ultraviolet radiation to be concerned about, 15 minutes or so to 30 minutes for sunburn in a day like today. Weather almanac, 80 is a seasonal average for high temperatures. we're going to be pretty much right on target for that, or very close to it anyway. Sunset 8:45. The outlook for today, a stray shower, maybe a rumble of thunder at about 3, 4, 5 o'clock into the evening. The high right around 80 degrees today with this hint of a northwest breeze. Tomorrow and Sunday, slightly warmer, slightly wetter, at least for tomorrow. We'll talk about the possibility of more rain, and then big time heat next week. That's coming up in just a few more minutes, Darian.
Thanks so much, Ted, for that report.
You're welcome.
Well, in other news, Kaler workers take to the picket line. Some employees say their paid time off has been stolen from them. A group was outside the front door of the iconic hotel yesterday afternoon, claiming the management company of the Kaler actually wiped out much of the PTO that was included in their previous contracts that they hadn't yet used. One protester tells us the hotel work has been hard and that the industry has a 73% turnover since the start of the pandemic.
Honestly, we're protesting because they have managed to blanket wipe over half of or more of our paid time off. I lost 42 hours myself. I know some of my coworkers have lost up to 100 hours, and we're not getting a whole lot of cooperation.
We did receive a call from the management company. It says this protest and any other picketing efforts were not authorized by the company. Kaler Board Representative Javon D.B. issued a statement saying, quote, while generally it is company policy not to comment on union matters, we felt it necessary in this situation to make a statement. The protest was initiated by a Local 17 business agent without consent of senior Local 17 employees, end quote. Continuing the quote, this protest was a violation of the contract between Local 17 and Kaler. It should be noted that there was only 2 Kaler employees present and all others were in no way associated with the Kaler. It goes on to say Kaler and Kinseth Hospitality Group have followed the language in the contract, and a miscommunication between both sides was amicably being discussed. Both sides continued to work together to maintain a positive relationship. Well, if you pay for doctor's visits with medical assistance like Medicaid, it's probably time for a renewal. The Minnesota Human Services Department is urging everyone to submit renewals as soon as possible. Those renewal forms are due July 31st. If you don't submit your form on time, you could lose your insurance. That includes people who got a 1-month extension from their original June 30th renewal deadline. Renewal forms arrive by mail, so you'll have to fill it out and then send it back. Make sure to include any other documents you're asked to provide. 1 in 4 Minnesotans have medical assistance or Minnesota Care. Around 191,000 people face the July 1st deadline to renew. Well, happening tonight, get ready to light up the night at Glow, a unique and exciting summer event happening in Rochester. You'll be supporting a great cause as well. It kicks off with a charity fun run/walk and then an after party filled with DJs, bubbles, lights, and more, all taking place at the Olmsted County Fairgrounds. This benefits the American Cancer Society. It starts at 7:30 and runs until 10:30 tonight. Glow is one of the kickoff events for the Olmsted County Fair, which begins next week. Well, happening this weekend, a West Concord family is hosting a 5K to raise awareness for the sudden unexplained death in childhood, or SUDC. This is a category of death in kids between the ages of 1 and 18 that remains unclear. The Rizlov family lost their 15-month-old LeMay in February of 2022. An autopsy could not determine what caused her death, so it was categorized under SUDC. The 5K is called LeMay's Bright Light, named after the family's organization they started in her honor.
Our beautiful LeMay, we miss her dearly every single day. There's not a day that goes by, not a second that goes by that we don't think about her. I'm hoping that one day we will live in a world without SUDC.
Runners will be sporting t-shirts highlighting the family's organization. LeMay's Bright Light 5K starts at 9 tomorrow morning at the Lions Park in West Concord. Allison says there are about 125 people currently signed up as of yesterday, and they've raised just about $5,000. Half of the proceeds will go towards the SUDC Foundation, and the other half will go to the Dodge County Sheriff's Office. You can learn more about this on our website, KTTC.com. Well, Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride Across Iowa, better known as RAGBRAI, kicks off tomorrow. Here's a look at this year's map through mid-Iowa. Here's some video from last year when the route went through northern Iowa, making stops in towns like Mason City. The festivities begin tomorrow in Sioux City with live music, giveaways, and more. The event began back in 1973, and it actually started in Sioux City. It is the oldest, largest, and longest multi-day bicycle touring event in the world, and around 15,000 people partake every year. The ride officially begins Sunday morning, where participants will complete the first leg to Storm Lake, Iowa. It goes until next Saturday. A lot of fun there. Well, artificial intelligence executives are coming together to establish safety measures as technology continues to advance. And then a multi-million-dollar settlement out of the state of New York following the racial injustice demonstrations during the summer of 2020. That's up next.
Celebrate the saving.
Thanks for sticking with us. U.S. officials apparently had their emails hacked as part of a recent targeted intelligence gathering campaign. The China-linked hackers assessed the email account of the U.S. ambassador to China, as well as the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia. The Assistant Secretary recently traveled with Secretary of State Antony Blinken to China, according to two U.S. officials familiar with the matter. The breach was limited to the diplomats' unclassified email accounts. The Wall Street Journal was first to report this news. Leading artificial intelligence companies are committing to new safety procedures. It's part of a voluntary pledge as Congress and the White House develop comprehensive regulations for the growing industry. 7 companies have agreed to put new AI systems through outside testing before they are publicly released. AI-generated content will also be clearly labeled to help combat fraud and misinformation. The companies that have signed on include Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Inflection. President Joe Biden is meeting with their top executives at the White House today. The pledge is voluntary, and there is no enforcement to ensure the companies stick with the commitments. And New York City has agreed to pay more than $13 million to settle a civil rights lawsuit brought on behalf of roughly 1,300 people arrested or beaten by NYPD officers during racial injustice demonstrations during the summer of 2020. If approved by a judge, experts say the settlement would be among the most expensive payouts ever awarded in a lawsuit over mass arrests. The lawsuit focuses on 18 protests that erupted in New York City following the killing of George Floyd. With certain exceptions, people arrested or subjected to force by NYPD officers at those events will each be eligible for nearly $10,000 in compensation, according to the plaintiffs' attorneys.
This is, we believe, the largest settlement in terms of amount of money to people impacted for protesters ever in this country. It's about $13.7 million directly to people who were falsely arrested and injured by the NYPD in the summer 2020.
These folks, just like thousands and thousands and thousands of others, took to the streets to protest police violence, and they were met with more police violence.
The agreement, one of several stemming from the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, allows the city to avoid a trial that could be both expensive and politically fraught. Your midday markets are right after a quick check-in with meteorologist Ted Schmidt.
Temperatures are slowly climbing as we approach the weekend. We're tracking some showers that are popping up on radar, and there could be some very sparse shower chances ahead of us, along with a lot more heat. That's all in the 7-day forecast, and that's coming up after our Friday market report.
part of our newscast, KTTC has you covered.
Federal dollars are on the way to help Minnesota in the wake of storms this spring. President Biden has ordered federal assistance to supplement recovery funds in areas affected by severe storms and flooding in the state from April 11th to the 30th. FEMA is working to make sure these federal recovery operations are dispersed to places that need them the most. We aren't sure when the help will arrive, but more funds and operations may be sent later if the president believes there's a further need.
Here's your first alert weather with meteorologist Ted Schmidt.
Meteorologist Ted Schmidt joins us for a look at the weather. So, Ted, I'm really hoping we have some pleasant weather this weekend.
Oh, actually, pretty good weather, yeah.
Good to hear.
For the most part, Darian. We have a little bit of rain, not much, but something to talk about. That's something we really could hope for. But also, around those showers, we have a lot of sunshine. That's kind of happening right now. Some sun, some clouds, a light breeze. Temperatures pretty decent for this time of the year. We're looking live outside on this early Friday afternoon with our Lewiston auto camera just moments ago. A couple hours ago, it was completely clear. Now with the daytime heating, we see these fair weather clouds blooming, blossoming, growing in the heating of the sun. And we're looking at the possibility of some of these clouds eventually harboring some rain chances for some of us. Very select few, but at least something to talk about. A little rain today, something similar, maybe a little better tomorrow. But right now, our array of Lewiston Auto live cameras looking pretty good right now. Some sun and some big cumulus clouds. You see some of those on satellite radar. Now we're even seeing some spotty showers. Some of those near Ellsworth, just east of Red Wing. Looking at some sparse showers to our northwest. A wave of energy ahead of an area low pressure is moving in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Again, surface high pressure is making for a quiet day. But aloft, there is a little energy that's going to spark maybe a couple of showers and maybe just enough instability for a stray thunderstorm. Maybe see a little lightning detection on the radar, but not severe, nothing widespread in that regard. But right now, seasonably warm. Rochester 77, it's 79 in Wausau, 80 in St. Cloud, Aberdeen 81. A bit warmer than we were yesterday when we were in the low and mid 70s at this hour. We're approaching 80 already. 77 at the airport in Rochester, Dodge Center 77, Mason City 78 right now. Dew point 58, not terribly humid. The wind is very light. Air pressure steady here in Rochester as we approach 80. We'll be right around that range. That's the seasonal average, so not unusual, but the coming days do look progressively warmer. Next week, hot and humid, but over the weekend, before we get there, chance of maybe a couple of showers, as I mentioned, today and maybe a little bit tomorrow afternoon. Future track today, a beautiful day for this time of the year. We even look at some beautiful showers, a few of those anyway. Future track painting a fairly widespread picture. I don't think it's going to be quite like this, but I think we'll see at least a few pop-up showers, maybe a rumble of thunder happening between about 3 o'clock or so, and a little bit after sunset, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, they'll fizzle out. Tomorrow, we start with tons of sunshine during the day, and then we see clouds begin to billow and look for isolated showers and thunderstorms, maybe slightly wider line of activity popping up around 5 or 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, then migrating southward, and then we have a quieter Sunday with plenty of sunshine and more of that seasonable warmth. Sparse shower chances, very bottom end of that probability scale, so very hit or miss, very light shower activity this afternoon, 3 until about maybe 10 o'clock or so this evening. A severe weather risk is way southwest of us today, but tomorrow it gets a little closer to home, just west of Rochester, level 1 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center, the daily outlook. Some hail possible, maybe some gusty winds in just a few of those storms, but very small chance of anything really anything widespread anyway in that regard. Rain chances Saturday, a little bit on Wednesday of next week. Small chance there. I mean, certainly need the rain. As we mentioned yesterday, it's now extreme drought for Rochester. That is the highest in decades on this scale for Rochester. 6.29 inches below average for this season alone, going back to early June. Rainfall looking promising. The possibility of a couple downpours possibly yielding up to maybe half an inch of rain. That would be nice. In a few spots, maybe that lucky. But stray showers today, not that much rainfall this time around, though. Right around 80 with that light northwest wind. Next few days, we look at a warmer trend down the road. A lot of 90s. We haven't had 90 officially in Rochester. We haven't had that many 90s in the map at all this season. But there will be chances maybe 2 or 3 days next week. 80 today. Some sun, a few clouds, and a stray shower or a thunderstorm. A light northwest wind. 58 after the showers taper off. We'll have a partly cloudy night. And tomorrow some sunshine. Then a couple of afternoon evening storms. 81 with that west breeze around 10 miles per hour. 7-day forecast. Again, Wednesday, the other rain chance. And maybe by the end of the week, a couple of more showers. So there are rain chances here and there. But big story here, besides needing the rain, hoping for rain, it's the heat area. And we're looking at something we haven't had much of this month, and that is some intense heat and humidity where it looks like we're going to wrap up July on a steamy note.
Oh yeah, it may be like kind of a shock to the system going outside and being all sweaty again.
Yeah, 5 out of 6 days in the 70s for highs, and now we're going to go back to something closer to 90. That's big change.
That's more July and August weather. So well, thanks, Ted.
You bet.
Well, it's something many people in the area and the entire state may have experienced in just the past week: hail. In this week's Moment of Science, Dan Smith breaks down the creation of hail.
KTTC.
Well, it's an icy, damaging, and sometimes deadly feature of some thunderstorms. Dan Smith looks to the sky for hail in your Moment of Science.
Thinking of ice in the summertime might involve frozen drinks or popsicles, but there's one form that's far from a treat for homeowners every year. This week, we're taking a closer look at the science and impacts of hail. First, the how and why. Hailstones form from super cooled water that's below the freezing mark but still hasn't quite frozen. It takes a little particle like a dust grain to form around, then the water can freeze and accumulate. Those tiny droplets are then swept up by strong updrafts in a storm, and as it rises and falls on either side of the freezing level in the cloud, it keeps building layer after layer of ice. Stronger storms can mean stronger updrafts and larger hail. Soon enough, the weight of your atmospheric onion of sorts wins out over the wind and it plummets down to earth. It's a bit different dynamic than little sleet pellets in the colder months, which are really just raindrops that refroze on the way down. It's not just little bits of sand and dust that can serve as those nuclei. There have also been documented cases of unfortunate small animals like fish, frogs, and crabs being sucked up high enough into the atmosphere by a tornado or waterspout that the hailstone simply freezes around them. The largest verified hailstone in the country fell in South Dakota in 2010, a whopping 8 inches wide, weighing nearly 2 pounds, crab not included. How fast those hailstones can fall depends on a bunch of things. How tall is the cloud? How many other hailstones does it hit on the way down? How large is the stone itself? Well, since we're not in a vacuum, the larger, heavier hail does fall faster. The National Severe Storms Lab 3D printed dummy hailstones to test that speed in a wind tunnel and discovered that baseball-sized hail can fall at nearly 100 miles an hour. Speaking of baseballs, we often say to compare hail size to standardized objects. Marble-sized isn't a good report since they range in size. It's why we use things like peas, coins, eggs, sports balls, and the occasional fruit. 1-inch diameter hail is considered the minimum for a severe storm warning to be issued. That's about the size of an American quarter. While Florida is the lightning capital of the country, the most hail tends to fall in plain states running straight up the middle of the country. It's known as Hail Alley, with an average of a full week's worth of days with hail every year. It corresponds well with what used to be Tornado Alley, though that hotspot has shown signs of shifting eastward in recent years. One last tidbit. Some hailstorms put down so many stones, you need a plow just to clear them all out. And living in Texas for a time, I can personally tell you it creates some of the thickest natural fog after the storm clears that you've ever had the displeasure of driving in. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
And here's Howard with what's next in the kitchen.
This is the secret to today's recipe. Stick around to find out what it is and what makes it so special.
Welcome to Riverbend.
If you've ever wondered how restaurants make really good tempura, you know, the kind when the batter is so light and crispy, you can't seem to get enough of it, pay close attention because we're revealing how they do it. All we do is combine some biscuit mix with a bit of cayenne pepper, garlic powder, and salt. Then we'll add our secret ingredient, club soda. The bubbles in the soda make the batter nice and airy. Once that's mixed, we can dunk strips of chicken, broccoli florets, whole mushrooms, zucchini chunks, or any veggie meat or fish we want. Once each piece is well coated, we'll carefully add one piece at a time to some hot oil. If you have a countertop deep fryer, this is a good time to take it out. Otherwise, a soup pot will do the trick. Also, you want the oil to be about 350 degrees, because if it's too hot, the batter will burn before the inside cooks through. Once they're golden, remove them from the oil, drain them on paper towels, and repeat the process until everything is done. Just look at this breading, light yet crispy. Maybe serve these up with some plum or sweet and sour sauce and dunk away. However you serve these, you can count on everyone loving them. I hope you'll go online to get our recipe for our secret tempura combo so you can enjoy this tasty Asian favorite right at home. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where every day we're looking for an easier way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Time now again to check back in with meteorologist Ted Schmidt on the weather patio. Ted, I am happy to see that sunshine today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day, Darian. A great way to round out the week. We're getting a little of everything, minus the intense heat. That's coming next week. So we have that to look forward to on Monday and really the length of the upcoming week. But right now, pretty seasonable day. Just, not that much humidity. Maybe a touch more than yesterday, but really no problems. That situation. We're looking at some big puffy cumulus clouds that have developed the past couple of hours. That's live from our Lewiston auto camera at 79. Winds barely moving 4 miles per hour. Air pressure is steady, 30.06 inches in the barometer. At the airport in Rochester, 77, 79 in Winona, Mesa City, 78 and 75 in Decorah. Tracking some spotty showers. Some of those popping up on the Wisconsin side of the Mississippi. A few more of those to our northwest. Some of those will move in around 3, 4, 5 o'clock this afternoon, but very sparse, very hit or miss activity. Not much in the way of rainfall. 80 this afternoon with a light breeze. Look for maybe a better chance of more of those scattered showers and storms tomorrow. Ted's Trivia, Adele credits which political figure for making her career? It's one of those 4 people listed below. Adele wants to thank that person, and we'll have that answer in just a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Ted.
Sure thing.
Well, dry conditions are hitting Minnesota hard this summer, with some of the southeast region now reaching a severe drought. One industry is bearing the brunt of this drought. We'll hear from them up next.
KTTC.
Extreme drought has left Minnesota farmers dealing with a unique problem. The intense heat is sparking barn fires, putting livestock at risk. John Larston talked to a farmer in central Minnesota about what can be done to prevent this.
We got a lot of cows having calves right now, so new life all the time. That's always great.
At 3D Dairy near Melrose, farm life is fast-paced. Dennis Middendorf's dairy cows rely on hay for milk production, but simply storing hay bales during a hot, dry summer has become a risky venture. The heat has nowhere to go.
And if you got too much hay on top of each other, it can't get out. It gets hot, gets over 170 degrees. You may get some black bales or start a fire.
Farmers in southeastern Minnesota know that all too well. The Wilson Township Fire Department has responded to a record number of barn fires this year, and they've documented the destruction on their Facebook page. In almost every case, the barn and everything inside was lost. Part of the challenge for rural fire departments is finding a water source to put out hay barn fires. Oftentimes, that source can be several miles away, which is why Middendorf does all he can to keep his barns in one piece. He doesn't stack his bales too high, and he tries to keep a breeze blowing through his buildings.
I think the key is keep space in your bales. Keep them low, height-wise, 2, 3 high.
Just another challenge during an already challenging summer.
You're always got that in the back of your mind. You don't want a fire that's starting and spreads elsewhere.
Officials say hay barn fires in the state have already tripled since last year. Well, it's the middle of summer and not enough rain has fallen, causing drought across the entire country. Our Ag Day Minute has an update on conditions.
I'm Clinton Griffiths with today's Ag Day Minute. There are more improvements to report in this week's Drought Monitor. Taking a look at the latest map, just over 25% of the country is in drought. That's down about 1% from last week, but you can see the extreme drought is still focused on the central part of the country. Now, 55% of the nation's corn crop is in drought. That's down 9% from last week, and about half of the soybeans are currently in drought, down about 7%. USDA announcing it's joining with attorneys general in 31 states to crack down on price gouging across ag supply chains. It's part of a series of new measures announced by the Biden administration this week that it hopes will lower costs for Americans and support small businesses. Under the plan, USDA will partner with states to weed out anti-competitive market practices in food, retail, meat, and poultry processing. And an Oklahoma boy managed to catch an unusual fish at a neighborhood pond. He reeled in a pacu. It's a South American fish closely related to a piranha. Now look at the teeth on that thing. Wildlife officials say the exotic fish was likely somebody's unwanted pet that was dumped into the pond when it got too big for its tank. Pacu can reach 3.5 feet in length and can weigh nearly 90 pounds. But good news, the species is generally harmless to humans, but could be a problem for local wildlife. For more Ag News, watch Ag Day weekdays on the station or anytime at agweb.com.
Ag Day Minute brought to you by Jen Bush, your experienced.
Here's your first alert weather with meteorologist Ted Schmidt.
Most of the week has been spent on the mild side of things, and so why should today be any different? We're looking at a fairly tranquil day with the possibility of just a couple of little brief showers in the area. Otherwise, more seasonable weather, decent humidity content, some sunshine, and mostly really pleasant, benign weather. Here's a look at time lapse. Watch the sailboat there, not moving very far. I think it's anchored, but that way we started the morning is we look at sunrise from across Lake Pepin. That's our Louis Dodauto camera. Great day to be out there hanging out in a sailboat or going all over the place in the boat, as was the case with some other boats. But otherwise, good day to be on the water or just about anywhere today because it is a comfortable July day. That's our Louis Dodauto camera across the area, looking at just a couple of extra puffy clouds that have developed. Watch those build and the heating of the sun. Very sparse showers are beginning to pop up on radar. Look for very hit or miss activity. Nothing really major, not a severe weather threat, not a big rain producer, but at least something that may help maybe green things up a little bit to some measure. And something similar will happen again tomorrow. A possibility of another chunk of energy aloft, generating just maybe a brief shower or two, maybe a couple of rumbles of thunder, especially tomorrow afternoon and evening. Today's activity very sparse. 77 right now in Rochester, Minneapolis 82, Bemidji 76, right now it's 80. In Green Bay, temperatures kind of typical for mid to late July. Not extreme heat yet, but that will come in time. We're talking about that for next week. We've been mentioning it for a while, and it does look to be on track to be here in a few days. But today, a very typical late July day as temperatures go. Rochester 77, 75, and Preston, Osage, Iowa 78. And if we look ahead outlook for today, we're going to enjoy dew point, that fairly comfortable level, just shy of 60, a light breeze. 77 this hour officially in Rochester. A couple of showers today, a better chance of maybe isolated storms tomorrow afternoon and evening. Then a hot, humid stretch of weather really gets started Monday and Tuesday and lasts to the end of next week. Even a couple of rounds of maybe 90-degree heat for many of us. Future track today, watch these showers build. Very hit or miss, very sparse light activity through just after sunset, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. They'll fizzle out. Overnight, a quieter night, showers move out. And then tomorrow, another round of rain is possible starting around 1 or 2 o'clock. The most widespread thunder threat, 5 to maybe about 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Then that wave of energy moves out and we'll clear things off for the remainder of the weekend. Today's rain chances very much a low end of the scale. Very sparse activity, very light, brief showers until about 10 o'clock. Severe weather risk today to the west of us. Nothing here. But tomorrow, actually, we were looking at the marginal risk that's actually expanding now eastward. So some hail and damaging winds, level 1 threat out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center after 4 o'clock tomorrow. So something that bears watching in time. Maybe some hail-producing storms. We'll be watching that over the next day or so. Some storms tomorrow, and then heading into Wednesday, maybe a slight chance of rain there. We certainly need some rain. The drought monitor issued yesterday, the most recent one, has us at 6.29 inches below normal for the season, and we are now in extreme drought. Much of the area, at the very least, moderate drought. Rainfall looks to yield maybe as much as a half inch or more in the next 4 days. And high temperatures today with a sparse shower, brief rubble of thunder, 80 in Rochester, 81 in Winona, 79 Mesa City. Temperatures over the next several days getting a whole lot warmer. A big spell of heat for next week. Upper 80s, low 90s for at least 5 or 6 days there in the upcoming week. Today, a seasonable day. 80 is the average high, and we're going to be right there today. A stray shower or a couple of thunderstorms. 58 tonight, a shower, and then partly cloudy skies. And tomorrow afternoon and evening, showers and a couple of thunderstorms. A light west breeze around 10 miles per hour. And more heat, each day warmer than the last. We will make our way to the low 90s by Thursday, with some very sparse isolated shower and storm possibilities Wednesday and Friday. Adele credits which political figure for making her career?
I am going to go with A, Hillary Clinton, because I believe Adele's kind of rise in fame happened around when she was Secretary of State. That's my stab in the dark.
It's actually right around the 2008 election, one of the biggest ever. Even she was on with when they had the parody with Sarah Palin. And they had that Saturday Night Live right before the election.
Yes.
And she was part of that episode, and then her popularity really took off too, because she was on one of the highest rated shows of the entire year.
Wow, that's great. Love Adele, so love her music. All right, well, we'll be right back after this. The writers' strike in Hollywood is now spreading to other parts of the U.S. as labor disputes continue. But first, excuse me. Legendary singer Tony Bennett has died. His death Friday comes years after an Alzheimer's disease diagnosis. Bennett is known for his prolific and crooner-style output of jazzy standards from the American Songbook. Audiences around the world have enjoyed his concerts and shows for more than 70 years. Bennett also made more than 150 recordings. He has also sold an estimated 60 million records. A career highlight was in 1962, when he performed at Carnegie Hall and released his signature song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Later in his career, Bennett collaborated with a number of young stars, including Lady Gaga. Bennett was also known for serving in the military and helping liberate a German concentration camp, as well as for his work with the civil rights movement. Bennett was 96 years old. Well, members of the Screen Actors Guild rally in Chicago as labor disputes continue. The strike has halted work in Hollywood. While Los Angeles and New York are epicenters for strike actions, there are dozens of mid-sized and small locals across the country representing performers and writers. In Chicago, hundreds marched and chanted at Millennium Park and Grant Park. Broadway's lights will stay on. The union representing 1,500 backstage workers has reached a tentative deal with Broadway producers and theater heads, averting a strike that could have shut down shows starting today. The deal still needs to be ratified by union members. That's expected to take place in the coming days. Well, we are living in a Barbie world this weekend as the long-anticipated Barbie movie is hitting theaters today. But some Barbies are traveling to a whole nother level. We'll tell you how up next. The long-anticipated Barbie movie premieres in theaters today. However, there are two Barbies that are out of this world. These Barbies are part of the National Air and Space Museum collection and on display at Stephen F. Utervey-Hazy Center in Northern Virginia. These are the only two Barbies that have traveled into space and visited the International Space Center back in 2022. The exhibit aims to encourage young girls to pursue careers in STEM, which focus on science, technology, math, and engineering. Pretty cool there. I mean, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm excited for the movie with my pink.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you here next time. Have a good one.